So just in general, the board of director, the organizational chart. So go up the hierarchy, go up the chain of command before you make any decisions at all. Okay. This talks about budget. I've seen some questions about that zero-based budgeting. That's when you have no place at all. You're starting brand new. So zero-based budgeting means you have nothing, 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 and you're starting your program based on nothing. Okay. Your budget analysis, you're looking at your ratio of administration. Ratio always means the dollar amount. So sometimes we're looking at the cost benefit analysis. So the cost benefit really looks at how much money am I spending and what is my benefit out of it. The cost benefit is not about money. It really is about, so I put all this money into the program to make sure that, my students, the population, the girls don't get pregnant. So the benefit is how many girls did I keep from getting pregnant. So the cost is, of course, what we put into it, but this one is measured by the benefit, not necessarily by the financial outcome. Okay. And we've seen those theories before, authoritarian, democratic, or laissez-faire. Laissez-faire just kind of means I'm kind of lazy. It really means you sit back, you let the people do what they want to do, and you don't take a big lead in it. Democratic, of course, means you vote. And then authoritarian is the same as that parenting style, that it really is making sure that the boss is the boss. Okay. Let's skip that research department, research kind. Go down to some community. Okay. Just in general, community practice, it's a sociological, social system, and social action perspective to address community problems. So this is really like old-fashioned social work, and this has been going on for a very long time. I'm actually kind of glad they're putting it back on the test because many times we forget about change in the community, and we often want to start off in that micro approach, and we really don't get to that macro approach. Okay. So the task and goals, we want to alter the public or private priorities to focus on the problem, promoting legislative action, establishing new services. Those are some of the terms that we're going to use. Okay, so what we do, we enhance participatory skills of the citizen. Remember, this is never our environment. We don't live here. Even if we're hired, we still don't live in this community most often. We're hired to do a job, which means to come in and find some leaders who can do this. Okay, we redistribute resources to increase the resource of the disadvantaged. We do some plan change, some problem solving, and then we address the interests of the disadvantaged. So most often the question when it's asking about, who we're working for, who we're trying to help, most often it's the marginalized or the people who really don't have the money or the, sorry. Okay, sorry, I just got a question there, who don't often have the money to do what we need to do, okay? The task of the worker, interactional, we relate to people, analytical, we follow those steps, or technical, for distributing information to the community. Those are the key roles. And again, sometimes we see enabler as not being a good thing, and enabler is a good thing. So our key roles, we're socio-therapeutic. It helps community members and leaders gain their self and community problems. Enabler, help community members use their own resources toward the problem. A broker, we're negotiating. An expert, many times we're providing the data, we're providing the information, we can be the expert. We can advocate, we can side with the disadvantaged, we can be an activist or an organizer. So those are all the roles that a social worker would play when it comes to community change. Okay. The tactics we're going to use, there are 3 major tactics. So it depends on what the commonality or the difference. So what's going on? Is this a group that we can just talk to and everything will be fine? Or is this a group that's going to come down to like, a conflict? And in community organization, it really is okay to use that conflict theory. One of the guys I'll talk about is Saul Alinsky, and he was a famous community activist, and he really thought, it was okay if we needed to use power. Okay. So then we can take a collaborative, which is everybody working together. We can campaign if we have to, and that's kind of, targeting the politics, changing things, or contest. And that really means kind of doing some, there's some conflict. If we're going to contest an event or contest what happened, there's some conflict going on there. Okay, those steps, of course, those are always so important. Introduce yourself to the group. That's the first thing you're going to do. Clarify what everyone is there. Address the problems. Help the group develop guidelines and a consensus on the problems to address. Help the group evaluate the advantages and disadvantages that focus on specific problems. Help the group focus on concrete problems, study alternative solutions, evaluate, etc. But those are the steps that we want to follow, okay? And then these different things we've talked about, locality development. So most often the question will talk about the local neighborhood or the local schools. Sometimes we'll see that word in there. Locality development is neighborhood work aimed at improving the quality of the community life throughout the participation of the broad spectrum of people, the local level. Okay, the model is associated with the democratic process. That means we want people to vote and have buy-in. We want universal participation. So that's usually on the local level. It might be a school system, it might be a local community, but it'll talk about that local level. That's what you're looking for. The constituencies, those are the people that matter. They're the voters, the residents, the businesses, and nonprofits. They influence and permit public officials to respond to pressure for change. That's locality development. Okay. Community integration, that's a process. We're kind of get the community together. Our change strategy, that's our plan. How are we going to make those changes? It broadly defined community can resolve its problems and develop increased ability to solve the problems. Tactics, how we're going to emphasize on consensus, and that's different than majority. Consensus, we really want most of the people to have buy-in. It really doesn't, we can't make any changes in a huge environment if we don't have most of the people who are buying in. Okay. Sorry. The tactics we might use, again, the emphasis on consensus and capacity building. Okay. The resolution of one problem facilitates resolving more complex and difficult problems. Talk about those workers again. The boundaries, your total geographic community. We're looking at agency types, settlement houses, Peace Corps, example, block clubs. Those are all under locality